Hey, so today we're going to talk about the movie Forrest Gump, and we'll discuss how Forrest Gump portrays Southern themes of simplicity and family, and we'll also discuss how these themes play into modern Southern culture.
So the first theme we're going to dive into here is simplicity, and one of the important things about simplicity is how Forrest lives a crazily extraordinary life, but in a totally ordinary way. He does things such as fights in a war, receives the Medal of Honor, meets multiple presidents, wins an international ping pong tournament, but really sees it as almost nothing. And as he retells the story in the movie, he treats it just as such. Simplicity also helps guide Forrest's morals in the movie, as Ethan will talk about.
Yeah, so it really helps him to always do the right thing. The first way, or a prominent way in which this manifests itself, is through how Forrest wants to save Bubba in the Vietnam War. Bubba is his best friend, and despite heavy fighting going on, he feels obliged to go back into the thick of it and save Bubba. Additionally, Lieutenant Dan had called a napalm strike on the area he was running into, so he knew he was running into potentially deadly danger, and he knew he was going to face that, and he goes back to save his friend anyway. And that's because his simple outlook allows him to say, hey, I had to save my friend no matter what the cost. And additionally, this kind of flows into how he promises Bubba that after the war's over, they would go into the shrimping business together, which is a business Bubba was heavily into before the war. And he promises to go 50-50, split the profits 50-50 with Bubba. And when Bubba dies during the war, obviously first of all, Forrest decides to go through with his promise anyway, despite his friend being dead. And that shows how his simple nature allows him to do the right thing, or a very kind thing again. But also, when Forrest ends up making a ton of money off of his shrimping business, he gives 50% of his profits back to Bubba's family anyway. And this, it kind of shows how his simple nature allows him to see, this would be a very kind thing to do. It's kind of the right thing to do, and I'm going to do it despite, there being a lot of other factors, such as having a lot of money. And there's another aspect of the simplicity theme.
Yeah, and that simplicity, as Ethan was saying, it kind of is very literal in that he has no complex motives, no ulterior motives. And part of this is because of how Forrest was raised. He lives his life based on these basic morals which were inspired in him by his mother. And this kind of takes us into the theme of family, which is very integral to the movie, especially with Forrest's mother. She's kind of the shining light in his life, and his best friend, Jenny, who he falls in love with. And there's a huge dichotomy between the two, in which Forrest is raised without knowing his father, and his mother is a loving figure to him and teaches him all the basics of right and wrong. And even though he's challenged mentally and initially physically, she takes care of him and makes him feel at home and always teaches him to do the right thing. While on the other side of things, Jenny, her mother died, and so she only grew up with her father, and her dad was an alcoholic who would abuse her and her sisters, and this kind of led her to lead a very rebellious and harmful life in which she experiments with drugs and unprotected sex and all different kinds of destructive habits. And this again opposes Forrest, as he leads a life in which he is giving to his friends and his friends' family, is willing to risk his life for others, and is just in general a very genuine and caring person. And so moving on to other characters, Ethan's going to talk some more.
The community values also present themselves through some minor characters within the film. You see, at the very beginning of the film, Forrest gets braces for his legs to correct back problems that he had as a child, and he gets them from the doctor, and there's probably 5 minutes spent with the doctor, a little scene there. And you can also see towards the end of the film, the same doctor is taking care of Forrest's mother as she's dying. And You can also see this in another character, the bus driver, who drives Forrest to school on his first day of school and drives Forrest's son to school on Forrest's son's first day of school. And this kind of shows the community values of the South. It shows like small town, the feel of a small town, and it shows how everyone knows each other and like how the community interacts. And it's not quite family, but it's essentially like the same feeling. And now to relate all this to the time period itself, the modern, which is the modern Southern era, the movie really shows the importance of simplicity in the Southern age, or simplicity, or the importance of simplicity in the modern age, especially in the South. You can see a lot of, or how simplicity is really stressed in the modern Southern era, how simple living is, I guess, portrayed as wholesome.
Yeah, and this really comes in today as almost an opposition movement to the kind of high stress, high strung lifestyles people live, with very jam-packed schedules and high intensity and long hours, etc., etc. And this also, in a way, polarizes the North from the South again, as was done historically by the South being a kind of relaxed, rural, lazy lifestyle almost, while the North, especially in the Northeast with the big cities, is very stressful, very, very quick and very efficient, focused. And so that is another way that like this dichotomy is shown between the North and the South, and the simplicity of life and the busyness of life.
I think that sums up the movie pretty well.
Yep.
Okay, I'm Ethan.
I'm Charlie.
Thank you for watching.